Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Your Next Business Bestie. I am really excited to introduce you to my client and friend, Patty, this week. Hi, Patty. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Birthday buddy.
I was going to say, so I don't know if I've ever told you this. So when Patty and I met, we've been working together for just over 2 years
I
now.
think
Oh,
so.
I could think we might be pushing 3 years now. That's crazy. But I felt like I blew that initial call with you. I was like frazzled, and I think like something happened with my Zoom that morning, but then we figured out we have the same birthday. And I was like, I think that she's giving me a shot because we're birthday twins. So we met right before our birthday too. I think it was like a week
We
before.
did, and I just liked you. I think that I felt you. I felt like I knew what you were about, and so I do think it was kind of a cool connection.
Yeah, and you've seen me through a lot of changes in the last 3 years too.
You were single and
But
no kids when I met you.
yeah. And I was working 40 hours in an office still, I think, pretty much or close to it. But before we get too far, Patty, why don't you tell everybody what it is that you do?
So the name of my business, I was very strategic when I named my business, is called Leading Teams. I help people lead their teams. I'm an executive coach. I'm a team coach, which no one understands. It's not like soccer or football. Um, and now a Bloom growth coach. So I just help people get more of what they want out of their business and their life, whether it's individuals or I work a lot with entrepreneurs and their small businesses, their leadership teams.
So, and how did you get started in this realm of coaching?
I mean, it all goes back to when I was a kid, but like I won't go back that far yet. But I've been doing it for 15 years. So I had a pause in my career progression. I left. I used to work for 21 years ago, the Entrepreneurs Organization, and fell in love with the entrepreneur. And I loved what I was doing, and I was great at what I was doing, but I had no life. So I left. I had to leave because I was engaged. I moved, I got married, and I had to quit, which I was ready. I was ready for something else. I knew that I had more to do for myself and more to offer. And I took a break and I was working with a coach and I was like, well, that's really what I want to be doing. Way back when, I don't know, my first job out of college, which was a long time ago now, I started in corporate banking and I started through a management training program and they were putting lots of money into us and developing us. And I would sit in those classes and I loved all of the classes, all of the organizational behavior and development and people and teams. And I looked and I'm like, oh, maybe I want to be a corporate trainer. But I looked around the class and nobody else wanted to be there. I was like the only geek, feeding off of everything they were saying. And I was like, ooh, I don't think that's going to be very fulfilling to stand in front of a room and have people like there's no sustainability. So it wasn't until I took a break from years later, now fast forward, and I worked with my own coach where I was like, oh, this is more sustainable. It's training, but it's coaching. So I don't know. I don't think coaching existed back in the day when I started my career. Not like it
Yeah,
does.
so I had a guest on the show. Her name's Angie Callan, and her business is coaching coaches. So it's all about helping people launch coaching businesses. And we were talking about how like there's such, and I will say I had kind of a negative feel of like everybody was becoming a coach in the last
Yeah.
couple years.
Yeah.
But she said like the coaching industry is booming right now, and it's expected to continue to boom, which is really
Well,
cool.
a lot of people just need a person, right? Outside, someone who you're not already entangled with. So, not your spouse, not your siblings, not your friend, like someone who is just there to listen. And it's kind of like a therapist, but it's not the same as a therapist. I have clients who have both a therapist and a coach. I'm very forward facing and what do you want? What do you want more of? How might you be getting in your own way? But how do we go forward? I don't have to go back to coming out of the womb and mom and dad. We could talk about it, of course. But we don't spend a lot of time looking backwards. We spend most of our time looking forward. And if you think about it, people hire golf coaches, they hire coaches for their
Wow.
kids, right? You outsource a lot of things, and it's just a nice way to have somebody who's like on your team.
Yeah, and somebody who sees the potential that you have, that especially when that imposter syndrome, especially with entrepreneurs, like their
Especially.
imposter syndrome gets really
It's
hard.
very lonely being an entrepreneur, and it's an emotional roller coaster. And usually an entrepreneur is an entrepreneur because they have a product or an idea or a skill and an ability, and that is often separate than managing people and the monotony of there's a difference between hunting and farming. And so it's not what they're great at, it's not what lights them up, it's what they need. But oftentimes it's an afterthought or it's a chore. So I can help them reframe that, right? Because how we see things then opens up new possibilities to how we proceed. And I see things that people don't.
So you mentioned that this goes back to childhood, so I have to ask. I mean,
Yeah.
something I say often on the podcast is, when I was 8 years old, I wasn't like, I'm going to be a creative strategist and a marketing assistant when I'm older. Like that was not a thing. But how do your roots go all the way back to childhood for coaching?
I mean, it all goes back. Anybody who really knows me, I will kind of laugh about myself and call myself Splatty. I am Splatty, the leadership camp counselor. Really, I'm Splatty from diving because when you miss a dive in high school and you splat and your name is Patty, it's funny. But then when I was older, so I started going to leadership camp when I was in seventh grade, the summer after my seventh grade year. So whatever that is, 11 or 12 years old. And because I was a natural leader and I had to go because I was the student council president or secretary. Um, but I loved it. Again, I found my people, I found my place, and I was organizing things and leading people and creating a plan and executing on the plan, right? I mean, it's very entrepreneurial what we were doing kind of at camp. Then I was a high school junior counselor, a JC, and then they called me when I was an adult. Somebody got sick, and I was in college, and an adult got sick. And so would I come back? And so I needed a nickname that was Splatty, but then I stayed, and I have gone to camp for 1 week every summer for like almost 30 years of my life, probably more. I've taken breaks over the years to like have a life.
Yeah.
But I have two kids. I've been there twice pregnant, sleeping on a bunk bed in the staff house. And because honestly, I feel like it helped shape me and who I am and what I am, which has always been leading people.
Yeah.
And so as a coach, I'm supporting people as they lead themselves, but I'm helping them lead themselves and helping them again see what they want for themselves or what they want for their business. And I'm a pretty positive person. I'm Patty Positive is one of my names. Um, and so it's, I don't know, I'm told that it's inspiring for people and it helps them see things that they didn't before.
Who were you working for or working with when you started your coaching business? What did it look
I
like
mean,
then?
I started with individuals. And so actually that's a great question. So I left working for EO. I was the vice president of global events. Loved them, came from an event background after banking and just needed a life. So I took a break, got my certification, but it meant I had to go find clients. And I don't really like that part of business. I just like, doing the work and then people being attracted to me naturally. And so what happened was EO called me back and they needed help with some regional quarterly forums. It was a very different product for EO. And so I was coaching on the side individuals, which was fine, not a lot of money in that. And then on the side, I was supporting EO and these forums as like a part-time contractor. So then all of a sudden I was coaching forums. And so, which is what led me into becoming a forum trainer, which I'm very honored and privileged, fortunate to be one. And so then all of a sudden I'm coaching these forums, supporting them, became a trainer. And that was really like my foray into then entrepreneurs are like, well, can you coach me? And I was like, well, yeah, sure. Why not?
I love that.
Yeah.
Something I know that you coach on, or part of your coaching, is the personality profiles. And before I started working with you, I knew what I mean, I just literally looked it up real quick. My Myers-Briggs is ISFP. And I have some friends that like, it became kind of trendy for a little while to talk about your Myers-Briggs. Like Enneagram has become a little trendy.
Yeah.
But how do resources like Myers-Briggs, like Colby, Strength Finders is a big one
Uh-huh.
too. How do
Yeah.
those help in your process of coaching groups?
Well, I use them depending on the group. I really like to use Myers-Briggs and StrengthsFinders. I also do Colby. I had done all of these. I mean, my Myers-Briggs goes back to when I was first in corporate banking, again back in the 90s. Um, and I use it as a tool in my marriage, right? Because we are very different. I'm an extrovert married to an introvert. I'm a thinker, I'm a feeler married to a thinker. And so just how we approach things is very different. So I use them because of my own story with them. The reports themselves gave me the words. I already knew these things about myself, right?
Yeah.
People know themselves, but we're not always very good at articulating why and how we engage with others. And so seeing it and writing it, it really helped my husband. He couldn't, when we were first dating, he couldn't understand why I wasn't more like him. And it was very frustrating for him. So this works in business too. Like, why aren't these people doing it the way that I want them to be doing it? Turns out we're all different. And so I gave him the report, went off to an EO university. In fact, this is 2004. And he called me that night and he was like, oh, I get it now. I'm like, what are you talking about? As I'm walking through Santa Monica. And he's like, well, I get why you need to have this conversation. You're an F and you think about feelings. And I was like, well, yeah, Mr. Robot, you're a T and you don't. And
Yeah.
so I use it because it just helps people articulate about ourselves, to advocate for our own needs, and then to understand that somebody else is wired very differently than me. So we really need it in teams because a lot of times this is the source of frustration and conflict, and it's not top of mind to be able to articulate it. So if I'm working with somebody who is a J, which is not judgmental, but somebody who needs things really structured and organized and orderly, and I'm a P and I'm all over the place and I'm a procrastinator, we're going to come into conflict. So we have to be able to have the overt conversations to prevent and work through any conflict. So I think they're fabulous tools.
Yeah, I've learned a lot more about them through doing work with you. A friend of mine owns a vet hospital next door, and she does Enneagram is part of the hiring process, is getting everybody's Enneagram. And like I'm an Enneagram 8. My husband is also an Enneagram 8. We're very strong personalities. She will only keep a couple Enneagram 8s on her staff at a time. I always say we're not great. And like that's why I'm an entrepreneur, is because I'm constantly pushing. I constantly want to change the mold. But I hadn't thought about having my husband take Myers-Briggs. We have not. I need to do that.
Well, you're on my list. I still haven't actually done yours with you, and so I'll do both of them.
Yeah,
And,
I would
and then
love
we
that.
can talk about it together. They're just, again, we know these things about us, but it just really helps to read. And like sometimes it's very validating. And
Mhm.
also, we might get some blind spots revealed to us, like, oh, is that how I come across to this person? If I want them to hear me better, or if I want them to respect me more, like maybe I need to understand a little bit more about them and change how I show up, right? I can drive my husband crazy. I think I'm great, but my extroversion can really push his introversion. So he'll say, like, your E is driving my I crazy. And I have to know that when we go to family reunions and he's nowhere to be found because he's reading the paper in the basement or somewhere, like I'm like, are
Yep.
you hiding? And he's not, he's just filling his bucket. He's taking care of his own needs. So it helps me back off a little bit.
How does Strength Finders differ from Myers-Briggs?
Strength finders I like because Myers-Briggs is more about your personality and your tendencies for how you show up in the world, how you take in information, how you make decisions, and if you're kind of organized or more spontaneous. Strength finders took strengths or skills and they divided them into 34 themes in 4 different categories. And so it really helps, like, how do you do things? What's your natural way of doing things? And so I like to use both of them together, because I think when we do, they reinforce each other. They're just, it's different language. I mean, there's a lot of different tools. People love DISC. People love
Yep.
Enneagram. I get confused. I know DISC. I get confused in Enneagram, and I just have to read the book, and I just haven't. But I
Do you
don't
know
care.
your
Like,
Enneagram?
and people are like Culture Index too. A lot of
Oh
EO
yeah.
members love that one, and that one I think is very specifically. You have to have a coach because it's letters and circles and lines, and it's hard to understand if you don't
Ugh.
pay in a coach. You can do Myers-Briggs on your own. I do it officially. And so you get the official report with me, and you can do StrengthsFinders on your own, and it's English, right?
Yeah.
I
Yep.
use them, I weave them in with Teams, but I just think it sticks because it's English.
Yeah. In Enneagram, you really can understand. Do you know what your Enneagram is?
I forget, I'm helper. Two,
Oh, a
four?
two. Okay. I would imagine your three is pretty strong too. Just
I
in those would
can't,
make a lot of sense to me. I
I
love
think I'm
Enneagram.
seven. I'd have to
I'll be
look at it.
really,
We did it.
yeah. I'd be really interested to know if my Myers-Briggs from the official test comes back as what I got from,
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll send you my Enneagram results and you can interpret me, and then I'll do your
perfect.
Strength Finders and Myers-Briggs.
Perfect. I did do the official strength finders. I think it was last year after I compiled results for you for a team. I was like, okay, it's time. I need to figure out what. And I did it through Gallup. So I
Yeah.
have the official strength finders. All right. So let's talk about Bloom. What is Bloom? Who is Bloom for?
So Bloom Growth System is a software, and it helps smaller, mid-size. I mean, my husband works with really big businesses, so what I say is smaller, mid-size is different than what he says is smaller, mid-size. But say 5 to 50 million in revenue businesses. There's certainly businesses that are at 200 million that are using it, but I would say 5 to 50 is the sweet spot, and it helps them get more done, double the size of your business, get more profit out of your business, get more time for you, the entrepreneur, and your team, right? Like sustainable growth through communication, prioritization. It's a system. And so I've been coaching entrepreneurs on all of this stuff for many, many years. I used to do EOS, which a lot of EO members know of that. I chose not to go that way. Bloom, I think, takes all of the learnings from Jim Collins and Vern Harnish and Scaling Up and EOS, and now it's got a software that runs the whole thing, which I like because it's then very integrated in just everyday how you're doing things. And the reason that I chose it is there's a whole amazing, like, transformational piece on team health. That's what I'm all about, right? Leading teams, lead your people. I want people, my whole why, like the reason I do all of this, and again, it comes back from leadership camp, is to help people have, like, unleash their potential so that they can have more joy in work, but life, right? Like, I love to work. I'm the luckiest person in the world. I love what I do. And I know a lot of people can't say that. And for me, it's just who I am and how I show up. And so there is joy for me in that. And I want people to be able to work in their authentic way, utilizing their skills and towards their passions and all of that, so that the business does better. I mean, yes, I care about your business and it growing and
Of
producing
course.
wealth and different types of wealth, but it's really, at the end of the day, nobody wishes on their deathbed that they worked more, right? It's really about being able to live a fulfilling life doing what you love. And so Bloom, using Bloom as a system, gives me a system to use with the leadership teams. I've been doing a lot of this work for a long time anyway, and I love to do leadership team retreats, but that's going back to corporate training. It's like one and done sometimes, or once a year. And then they go back to the office and they go back to their bad behaviors or their bad habits, and they don't fix things. So with Bloom, I get to push through the entrepreneur, because sometimes when I coach the entrepreneur, I don't know if it's really getting to their team. And now I get to go through the entrepreneur and help lift up the team so that the entrepreneur can maybe move to the side and do what they're good at doing and empower their people. That's often where there's a big conflict, is the entrepreneur is afraid to let go and empower people, and so they become the bottleneck. So it's really about growth. And I've been doing all this work, but now Bloom has more of an automated system and a structure and a process. And so it's just awesome. I'm really excited about it.
What's that structure and commitment look like for organizations that are interested in Bloom?
Well, so we, at the beginning, we meet like once a month. So we call it like day one. And then a month later, we meet on day 30 to get more work done. We're like laying the foundation. And then a month later, we meet on day 60. And then a month later, we meet on day 90. And then, so that's a quarter's worth of work, 4 touch points. And then once we hit the end of that first quarter, then we just meet on a quarterly basis. I touch base with them, of course, throughout the quarter.
Yep.
And every quarter, we're resetting their priorities and resetting their numbers and helping to work through what are the biggest obstacles and opportunities. We call them O and O's. What are the biggest obstacles in your way to growth or whatever it is that you're trying to get, higher profit, more time for yourself? What are the biggest opportunities out there? Because sometimes we're so busy dealing with all the stuff that we don't actually have time to leverage and take advantage of opportunities that are out there. So we do that on a quarterly basis. And then, at the start of the year, at the end or the start, depending on the business, one of those quarterly sessions turns into a 2-day annual retreat. So there's, warm and fuzzy stuff baked in as well, which is really important to the health of your team. And that's why I really like Gallup and StrengthsFinders, because people work a lot harder when they're actually engaged and people just want to feel seen, feel heard, like what they do matters and that they're actually contributing. And I don't know. I don't know a whole lot of people that want to just take orders. I suppose there's some people who just want a paycheck, but that doesn't really fly in an entrepreneurial business. So those people go work somewhere else.
And I think it's less and less on every level that's, people won't put up with it as much. I have a client that she coaches on positive intelligence. And so she does a lot of work through Gallup too about like what people are expecting from their employers, entrepreneur, whatever. Like people just want a healthier work environment. But I want to back up for a second to, you mentioned how much you love work. I also love to work. My
Yeah.
mom loves to work. And that often comes with such a negative connotation that people just assume that we work ourselves to death. And I will say, up until probably this year, I was very much in the hustle, working way too many hours. But I think you do a beautiful job of balance with your family. How have you developed the balance? Because you have kids, you have a
It's
life outside
been
of work.
really intentional. And I still like it is a daily battle inside of me because my tendency is, oh, I want to do that work. Go, 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 go. And then I have to like stop and pause and like, okay, what is the opportunity cost of that? And I travel a bit. My husband travels. We have 2 kids and they have emotional needs that, I mean, are high. And
Yeah.
so but years ago, when I was dating my husband, it was brought to my attention. And I know I'm a workaholic. I come naturally to it through my dad. And, but like, what do I really want out of life? And again, on your deathbed and on my dad's, nobody talked about the work that he did, which was really hard actually, because it was such an important piece. And whatever, we can blame COVID and all
Yeah.
that location. But so I had to redefine when I took that break, when I left EO back in 2008. I was working with a coach actually, and so she made me answer a lot of key fundamental questions for myself. What do I really want most in life? And what does success look like for me? Because, I've got an 8th grade teacher who thought I was going to be like the first woman president, and I have no desire for that. And, or that I was going to climb the corporate ladder and go be the president of some big company And when I was in working in corporate America, I was like, I do not like this. It's the politics. So no
Mhm.
politics for real. And the corporate politics, I don't enjoy at all. Because I don't think there's not a high level of trust there and authenticity. Anyway, so um, I lost my train of thought. What am I talking
We
about?
were talking about I lost it too now.
I
But this
know.
is what editing is for. We talk about balance. There it goes. With
Oh, so
creating
I had to
balance
define
and
for
yes.
myself. Thank you. I had to define for my ADHD brain, what does success look like for me? And I got real clear with myself that success looked like balance. And we can argue over whether balance is the right word or integration. It really is very integrated for me. And so I work very hard. I have to coach myself to say no to certain things. That's another reason why I like Bloom, because I think I can make a bigger impact with more people. And I'm not having to get on a plane all the time. And, I do a lot of forum training and I love working with forums. I think I'm very good at working with forums. Um, but it's working harder, not smarter. So
Yeah. So, my coach actually asked this recently on a training I did with her. What does a successful day look like to you?
a successful day looks like something for me. Look at me putting me first. That's actually like a really big thing for me because I don't. I normally put myself last. So I'm back into yoga. So whether it's a workout or yoga or a walk or it's a visit, like whatever it is, and I don't always get something for me, but I'm working really hard at my age now to do something for me in every day. It is good time, quality time with my kids, not just going here, going there, but like a conversation or moments and like connection. So deep connection is one of my core values. Trying to hold on, my kids are now in middle school, so hard, but like deep connection with my kids. Work, having just enough work where I'm moving things forward. If I'm in session for a full day, then other things have to go. So I tend to work in peaks and valleys, right? So I'm full on another day, and then other days, like today, I went to yoga, and then it's my daughter's birthday, so I'm baking a cake. I'm not very good at it, but I'm baking a cake. Right? I want to be able to be very present. I am very good and purposeful at being present, which means I don't always respond to emails right away. And because I'm not there right now, I'm here.
Yeah. I think that's one of the hardest things for me is not being plugged into work all the time. And since leaving my W-2 job, I will say, I just made a social media post today about this. There's a lot of, especially in the yoga world, there's a lot around the morning routine and, getting up and meditating and doing yoga and journaling. I am not a morning person at all, 0% morning person. Because you'll get emails from me at 1 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah,
because that's when I work best. In my social media post this morning, I was like, if I could work until 2 a.m. and then sleep till 9, that would be my ideal schedule.
there are people who do that.
But I have a 6-year-old, so I kind of got to get her to like
It's
school and
hard, I
stuff.
know. And I would love an early morning routine, and I know it's a wonderful way to start the day. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm a night owl. I am naturally a night owl. Maybe when my kids are out of the house, I'll be able to do that. But you know what? I get them off to school, and then depending on if I'm not in session, I am trying these days to block off some of that time for me. And so I go, I'm carving it out. I'm blending it all in. Again, I do the best I can
It's
with what
different
I've
every day.
got. And, like there's the whole, we call it the wheel of life and different categories of your life. And am I giving enough effort? And it's really easy to get addicted to work. And I have been accused of that in my life. And so I work really hard to put my energy, because I have a lot of it. It's the number one word that gets reflected back to me. Is like, oh, your energy. Oh, your energy. I didn't know. I do now, but I don't, this is an unconscious thing, but I'm working hard to direct my energy in other places besides work. So some of it goes to me, Some of it goes obviously to my kids. More of it should go to my husband, right? And our family. So I try really hard to deliver energy to my family, and then uh, anything extra, and that varies.
Yeah, and I think that's important for people to realize is that it doesn't need to be easy. It's not necessarily going to be easy to direct your energy in the places. I mean, for me, Thursdays have become I take Elena to school and then I spend an hour reading a book and enjoying my coffee or whatever before, and I do check my email to make sure there's no fires, but I try to take that hour and it's not when I first woke up. It's 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. or whatever, but your morning routine, your routines can fit into your life instead of trying to fit your life into these routines that have become popular on social media. For me, it's reading a chapter of a book every night before I go to bed. I started doing that in January and it lets my brain turn off, which as an entrepreneur, we're thinking about our businesses 24/7. And so I was sleeping like crap. So I started reading a novel, not a business book, not a self-help book, a novel before bed every night, no matter what time I go to bed, and I'm sleeping so much better. And I've read 55 books this year. Like
Wow.
little, right? The most I've ever read in a year.
Like real books?
Real books and Kindle and real books.
Okay.
And then I listen to some Audible too, but
Yeah,
like physical Kindle and yeah, which has been a life-changing.
that's great.
Um yeah, it's little habits.
Well, and that's your introversion, right? There's just time for like you and just
Yeah.
go away. I had a stressful time many years ago. I had hired the wrong person, and I joked like Harry Potter saved me through the worst hire of my life. Like I would wake up, my eye would be twitching in the middle of the night. That was how my stress. And so instead I was like, well, what are all these Harry Potter books? And I didn't even have any kids at the time. And I read them, and because it was just so easy, right? It was just like whimsical. And so like I would go to Hogwarts and then I would go to sleep.
Yeah. That's what I've been reading a lot of fantasy this year. And yeah, my brain gets to explore another world and I can actually sleep.
Yeah.
I asked you this question before we started recording. What keeps you going when shit gets hard as an entrepreneur? What is your fire?
I am like the little energizer buddy. So I
Yeah.
do keep going. If I mean I avoid certain like that's why I hired you, because I don't like some of the things that are I'm better with people, and I'm better in a room, and I'm better doing that, and like all the
Mhm.
other work I'm not very good at. And so I don't know that that counts as hard. That counts as for me like boring. Um but so when motivation is low, self-discipline has to be high. And so in order for my self-discipline to be high, I have to be filling myself up. I usually have to like go clean the house. It's kind of a weird thing, right? But I need the space to be around me to be clean so that my brain can focus. And then I just have to carve out time. And I and then I usually reward myself with something.
Yeah. I Space is a big thing. I moved my desk into what was our dining room because we weren't using our dining room table. We eat at our island, and I am so much more productive now. I mean, as you know, my desk has been in my bedroom the entire time we've been working together, and I realized I hadn't had my desk out of my bedroom since I moved to Colorado in 2018. So now I actually have dedicated space to work, and like my desk is still cluttered because that's just part of my ADHD brain, but I have this dedicated space to me, and space makes such a big difference.
It does. When COVID hit, long story short,
Mhm.
for children and husband now working at home reasons, I secluded myself work-wise up in the guest bedroom, and I worked on like a wire rack, a two shelving wire rack that I had in my college closet, and I in a terrible chair. And I worked on that for like 2 years because I could lock the door. I had my own bathroom. I had my own space. Um, and then it was finally whatever. We were like, life went on. And I was like,
Yeah,
okay, I need to come down here. So now I have this beautiful office, also cluttered, but yeah.
but it
So
works.
I'm always going,
Yeah.
right? So what keeps me going when shit gets hard? I'm just baby steps, baby steps. I think, I had a forum mate and her core value was move things forward. And I won't say that it's one of my core values, but I do think it's just something I naturally want to be checking off a box. And unfortunately, I don't always feel good about myself if I'm not productive, right? So any kind of progress makes me feel good about myself.
Yeah, I mean
I need to
Monday
learn to
I
just be and not
oh,
have to be productive, but I'm an achiever. So
too.
one of my top five strengths, I'm trying to tone the achiever down these days in my older age, but one of my top five is achiever, which basically means I'm a workhorse, right? So the shadow side is it's hard to sometimes just be. And so in my older age, I am now trying to give myself permission. And so yoga is a way for me to just go be because again, I'm totally focused there and it clears my mind. And, you know, sitting and watching a TV show is not always my favorite way of just being. My husband and I will find a show together and that can be
Yeah.
fun, but like a bike ride is a good way.
Mhm.
I have to be doing something.
Yeah, my husband and I find shows to watch together. I have him watching Stranger Things right now before the new season comes out. But I sit there and work while I've seen it before, so that's part of it. But I can't just sit and watch TV. I cannot do. I'm either on my, he's like, you're on your phone. I'm like, I know. This is not a thing for me. I'm either working or I'm checking emails or what TV. Yeah, I agree with
I
you on
like
that
to
one.
be doing, right? A bike
Yeah.
ride, a walk, a run. I'm a doer and he's more of a beer,
Mm,
right? So
yeah.
finding ways of making our energy blend that way.
Are your
Travel is a
oh
thing
yeah.
that actually brought us together back in the day but you know, again, one of my core values is positive experience. And what I mean by that, so there's where Patty Positive, the positivity came in. And what I mean by experience is that I like to be out there doing things. I like adventure, I like travel. Whatever it is that we're doing, I want to make it like a cool thing, like memorable. I like to make the moments count.
Do you think your kids are more doers or beers?
I don't know. Brendan is probably a little bit more of a doer. I'm learning that I'm the only one in my household sometimes who has my energy, which is frustrating. Actually, it's very hard.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
I
my
blame,
daughter is going to be a doer 100%. She's cannot sit still to save her life. So, and I think I'm a little bit of both. I think finding reigniting my love for reading has helped me be a little bit more that I can sit and read a book and actually get my brain to not think about the 10 other things. I think that's not with TV. Like I'm still thinking about all the things I could be doing, and that's where it doesn't work for me.
yeah.
But if someone wants to reach out about Bloom, about executive coaching, about a retreat, all the things, what is the best way for them to get in contact with you?
I mean, probably email. That makes me old fashioned. I'm on social media, but I don't do a whole lot there. Patty at leadingteamsinc.com, that annoying ink, Patty at leadingteamsinc.com, or my website, leadingteamsinc.com.
Any other words of wisdom for entrepreneurs out there that are maybe just starting out?
You know, I don't know that I have words of wisdom. I just think I learned a long time ago that like there's people who again, there's doers and there's beers, right? So some people are just naturally drawn to go do the thing. Other people think about it. Here's one that I got from leadership camp years ago. There are three kinds of people. There are people who watch things happen. There are people who make things happen, and there are people who say, "What just happened?"
And I
I
can
think
think of those
about
people in
those.
my world. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and or critique what's happening.
Hmm.
And so, look, I think that entrepreneurs are people who just need to make things happen. And you know, the other phrase that I'm always like, we do the best we can with what we've got. And that can change. Doesn't mean that doesn't give us an excuse not to grow, because I do think it is all about growth. But for things to change, I must change. And so that's where the growth is.
Yeah, and it can be even every day with what you've got. Like Monday and Tuesday of this week, my energy level was 0 and I had no idea why. So I got a lot less work done. But then yesterday I felt a lot better. Today I feel a lot better. So I can do more because I have more to do.
Well, this is why, we started it towards the beginning about like filling our own cup. Our cup has to be full for us to have anything to give to others. And so whatever that means for ourselves, if it's a nap or if it's a walk or if it's time or if it's more than that. So putting ourselves first, put your own oxygen mask on first before you can help others is really what it comes down to.
My husband and I took our first flight together, and he goes, as if I'd ever put my mask on before I put it on my kid. And I was like, and that's how you act in your life, putting everyone else first, right there. It was so funny. But thank
Yeah.
you so, so much, Patty. It has been a pleasure learning more
Yeah,
about
thanks.
your story. We've been working together a long time, but I learned a lot today. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And yeah, and for everyone listening, if you're interested in being a guest on the podcast or finding out more about what I do as a creative strategist, you can find me on Instagram at LifeJensWay or email me at jen@jensway.com, two N's on Jen always. And yeah, I'll see everybody next week on another episode of Your Next Business Bestie. Have a wonderful day.